Good afternoon, audience. Welcome to the Standards Education Talks. My name is Glory Chan and I'll be your host today. In this session, we will be providing you with all you need to know about transitioning to Invictus School Hong Kong. It is a delight to be joined by Mr. Christopher Jackson, Principal of Invictus School Hong Kong, and Ms. Karen To, a parent from Invictus Secondary School. So welcome, Chris and Karen.
Thank you, nice to be here.
As a school that was established in 2019, Invictus is relatively new to Hong Kong's education landscape. Yet it is quickly becoming the school of choice for parents in the city. Chris, what are some distinguishing features of Invictus that make it such a popular option?
I'm really pleased to hear it has become a popular option for parents because 3 years has not been a long time. What makes it a popular option possibly depends on the age group of sort of the children parents are thinking about. Undoubtedly for our kindergarten and our primary age children, parents are attracted by our bilingual program. The fact that we are offering immersive English and immersive Mandarin Chinese programs, that is a big attraction. And for parents of older students who are at the secondary age, our curriculum, the GCSEs and the A-levels, which are not that common in the Hong Kong international sector, that is certainly a big plus point, if you like, for our potential parents.
Karen, I know that your eldest son, Ethan, has recently joined Invictus in Year 7. How did you first hear about the school, and what made you decide to enroll Ethan in Invictus?
Okay, I first heard of Invictus on the social media. I first realized that it has set up a primary section in 𝗂𝘂𝘀𝘀. Then I followed the news, and then I realized that it was applying for a license to open up a secondary school in Taiwan. And later on, it got the license and it opened up. And then I booked a school tour to come to the campus to take a look. And I'm very impressed by the management team and the admission team who has given me a very detailed introduction and explanation to the British curriculum, which is very well structured, internationally recognized, and very organized. And I was also very impressed by the management team that they are very passionate as a new school, and they have a vision to develop the school into a very high standard of school in Hong Kong. So after the school tour, I have no hesitation that I fill up the form and submit the application.
Right, but with Invictus being so new to Hong Kong, did you have any initial concerns about the expertise or the future development of the school?
Well, Invictus may be new to Hong Kong, but it has actually been very established in Southeast Asia. It started in Singapore, and it has a few schools running in Southeast Asia over these years. So I believe the Invictus team will bring the experience and the expertise to Hong Kong. So it's not completely that new as an educational organization. And also, Singapore and Hong Kong has very similar cultures. So I believe the Invictus team will understand very well the Hong Kong community, the Hong Kong parents, and also the children.
Well, as international schools are becoming more popular among Hong Kong parents, more and more parents are considering whether to send their child to a local or an international school. So Chris, what advice do you have for parents in this situation? I mean, what factors do they have to consider when deciding between the two options?
Choosing a school is possibly one of the most important decisions that any parent would make. And one thing I've worked out over the years is Hong Kong parents put a lot of time into careful research. They really do their homework to find out about all the schools in their area or all the sort of potential schools. Some of the important things to think about are that most of the international schools in Hong Kong are running a sort of an educational program that is quite different to those in the local system. But education, it's a very long process. You're looking at 12 or 13 years of education altogether. So I think it's very important that parents take a really long view from K1 up to year 13, which we do cater for, And then identifying if they definitely sort of see that as the long-term steps for their child, and possibly heading off to a sort of a university overseas, if you like. Any parent, anywhere in the world, any parent is always looking for opportunity for their children. You know, an opportunity for their children to do well in life, to succeed in life, to have a happy life, I hope. And I think a good international school, and I count Invictus as a good international school, is offering that. It's offering opportunity for children to find their passions in life, to find the things they're good at, to be honest about the things maybe they're not so good at, and to have the chance to engage in all of those things, to have the chances to sometimes fall down, but to get up again and keep on growing in a personal level, as a person, as a character, as well as ultimately end up with a rounded education. Holistic is a word that's often used, that covers all the sort of the curricular areas, if you like, that whole person thing, but leading to a good set of qualifications that take children on to that next step, you know, university and the next steps in life. So I think what is a good thing about our school is that it does that it doesn't make children fit into certain boxes or make them fit into the curriculum. It's all about making things fit the child for who they are and who they want to be, and helping to grow with them, if you like.
Right. Can you elaborate more on the idea of education being a long-term process and educating the whole person? Yeah. And can you briefly describe the learning environment here at Invictus?
Yeah. I think when we talk about whole person education, we are also talking about developing people socially, developing things that are sometimes called soft skills, and the right sort of personality traits that any parent would want for their child. Resilience, for example, skills like collaboration, able to work with people, learning to appreciate different points of view, because that's what you sort of need to do when you sort of grow up and you go into the big wide world. And very much, you know, you drop into a classroom in Invictus, whether it's a year 2 classroom or a year 10 classroom, the learning that you see taking place is reflective of those sorts of things. You don't see rows of children just copying stuff on the board, repeat, learn, remember, that sort of approach. You see them working with groups of people. You see them questioning the teacher as much as maybe the other students. You know, that's about sort of showing perspective. Working with other children is collaboration. After all, as adults, we all work with other people. So why not sort of learn how to do that at school? And then giving children the opportunity to engage with each other in different ways. So within that classroom, you've kind of got a social environment, if you like, and that's what helps build the person up as much as anything else, all right? And it goes back to that word I mentioned earlier, the opportunity. I talked about earlier sort of resilience, the having a go, the falling down, you picking yourself up again. So those things become like the ethos of the school as much as anything else, as much as teaching children how to read and write and those important things. It's a lot bigger than that. And that's why I think you talk about in for the long haul, it's a long-term process, because those things are always developed in a very age-appropriate way. Children working together in kindergarten is learning to take turns and to share. Children working together on a project in a year 12 biology class is a very different thing. That starts being quite similar to the sort of project that many adults might be involved in their office on a Thursday afternoon. And those things are developed slowly. And every step that we take leads into the next one, from the kindergarten to the primary to the secondary. And then, of course, we hope for university, lifelong learning, and a successful life, because that's what parents want for their children. They want a successful life.
With regards to language,
yep.
As an international school, how do you support local students who may not be as proficient in English?
We do have some children who are sort of coming into our school with varying levels of English. And I have to say, all of their second language capability is much higher than my capability in Chinese, so I do take my hat off to these students. To offer them sort of support on a very practical level. We have a number of our staff who, of course all of our staff are fully qualified, but some of their qualifications are also in a sort of EAL or TEFL background, which helps give a perspective for them as teachers to the sort of the challenges that some of the students might face, and to help tailor the learning and the teaching styles to meet that need. In Year 7 next year, having recognised that it's a big step for children coming from a local primary school to an international secondary school, we're putting in an EAL enrichment program where a piece of curriculum time, if we'll call it that, each week is dedicated to really enhancing language skills and giving opportunity to develop language skills, not in a particularly formal curricular way, but through a range of other activities, drama being one of them, so there's quite an emphasis on speaking and listening there. And that also sort of helps to connect to that the style of learning we want, where children are happy to sort of have a go and make a mistake, because that's where the learning comes from. And that comes in language as much as it does anywhere else. And if that EAL enhancement program is sort of successful, it will then sort of slowly morph each year, where the level of support, as the capability of the students grows, the level of support can drop away in that area, and then we sort of dedicate time and resources to developing other curricular areas as the children move up through the school.
Right, I see. So we touched upon this a bit earlier, but can you explain more about the curriculum that Invictus offers?
Yeah. We call it an international curriculum, and it most certainly is that. But in many ways, it's actually going back in its origins to a British curriculum. And I don't mean that in a historical way. If we start at the top of the school, so you know our Year 12 and our Year 13s are doing an AS and an A-level program run by Cambridge. Then you drop down and we do GCSEs, or the international version, IGCSEs, which offers a nice broad range of subjects. Both the GCSEs and the AS AA levels are world-renowned qualifications, and they're qualifications that have been around for a long time and are recognised by leading universities and institutions all around the world. And that's what parents are looking for ultimately, that's the opportunity. If you then go back to the beginning of the secondary school, we are still with Cambridge, and we do something called the Cambridge Lower Secondary Programme. That's a 3-year programme, and that is all about breadth. That's offering a wide range of subjects, from the maths to the sciences to the arts and music, to give a really good grounding for those GCSE and those A levels later on. And then you drop down to, I'm doing this in reverse, you drop down to the primary school. And in the primary school, we use something called the IPC, which is the International Primary Curriculum. But like the Cambridge programs, the origins of this are actually in the UK curriculum, but it's given an international aspect. In other words, you're making it more relevant. And when I say relevant, for children, I probably mean more interesting for where they are. You know, they want to, children want learning that makes sense to them wherever they happen to be living. Okay, so that's what the IPC aims to do, and it does it through sort of themes and topics, very engaging, and it's quite hands-on learning as well. And one of the unique factors about our school is we do all of that bilingually using English and Mandarin immersively. And then if you drop all the way down to kindergarten, the program there leads into the IPC. It's called the IEYC. So all of these programs, they are natural progressions from one to the other. They are the skills and the knowledge that children need in the next step along the way. So it's quite a sort of well-constructed curriculum from K1 to Year 13.
Right. For students who are coming from different schools with following a different curricula, what support does Invictus provide to help them adapt to the curricula offered here?
Yeah, it's very important to understand as a teacher where your students have come from and what sort of previous experiences they've had. And we try and find out quite a lot of that through our admissions process, through our sort of interviews and meeting students, and getting information off parents to help us find out about that. But mostly it happens once the children are sort of with you, if you like. Now, in some ways, kids are kids, but in many other ways, we are all human and we're shaped by the experiences that we've had. So if children have come from an environment where there was a lot of pressure and making mistakes wasn't valued, that will be something that they are sort of, that's normal for them. And those things are not normal in our school. So you've got to sort of encourage and coax children that mistakes is okay, offer them the right sort of praise and encouragement, especially with the younger ones, to sort of help get them used to a new and alternative sort of learning style. As you sort of progress through the school and you start looking at sort of the secondary year groups, say year 10 up to year 13, say, there can still be differences from the type of curriculum the children have followed. So you're still sort of working with them to help them change and adapt their learning styles. And sometimes that might mean that they are now being asked to engage in activities that they've not really done before, perhaps collaborative group activities. Maybe they weren't sort of used to sort of asking so many questions where we truly encourage it. So it's just modelling it, it's showing it, it's encouraging it, and it's recognising that things like that don't change sort of overnight, over quickly. So that sort of thing is a slow burner, as they say. Now, here I am talking about children, but parents are also sometimes in need of a little sort of help and support about how we do things in our school. Parents are always pleased to hear that we value sort of partnership between home and school. But if, say, parents haven't been through an international school system, they found out enough, I talked about research earlier, didn't I? They found out about enough to know that they like what they hear about Invictus School and they want their children to be part of it, to benefit from it. But sometimes parents also need a bit more help to learn how we do things and why we do things and how to help. And I think that's one thing I've learned over the past few years is how important that can be, keeping the parents informed as much as you are trying to help and develop the children, because it's a partnership. You know, they also have their role to play. And as any parent will know, if sort of two parents give sort of different messages to a child, children get confused. So if you've got home and school talking about learning in the same way, then you have a much smoother path to some successful learning, to higher achievements, to a more enjoyable schooling. Because I honestly believe schooling should be enjoyable. I really do.
Right, that really brings me to the next question.
Yep.
So Invictus prides itself also with being an inclusive school, and part of this inclusivity is including parents in the process. So I was also wondering, how do you include students who may have different learning needs or academic performances?
Certainly, the style of education which we are sort of promoting and developing often includes quite open-ended aspects, if you like. And I think that is a very important way of making sure that children sort of fulfill their potential. So when we talk about a range of learning needs, you're designing your lessons, you're designing your programs where children can go a long way. And when I say a long way, relative to the child, I mean all the way, but of course it's a slightly different sort of thing for different children, isn't it? So you're helping them sort of achieve that potential. But again, the learning styles that you would see in our classroom is when different children might be doing slightly different things. So not everyone is being delivered the same lesson from a teacher standing at the front of the room. There's part of that in the lesson, of course, but you know, I talked about collaborative work and group work earlier. That's when you see children of different levels working on slightly different tasks, which ultimately might have the same learning goal or the same skill development, and then the teacher offering different levels of support according to what children need, where a teacher offers more independent work for this child, phrases questions in one way for this child, offers questions in a different way for another child, and that sort of tailoring for those different learning needs and giving the opportunity for all children to move themselves forward or to move themselves up. I often say to sort of parents, it doesn't matter where your child is on the kind of the ladder of sort of learning, if you like. We are all about getting them onto the next step. And if they're on the second step, it's all about getting to the third step. If the child is quite a high achiever and they're already on the fifth step and their maths is great or whatever it is, it's all about getting that little bit further to the sixth step and inspiring them and helping them as well.
Expanding on your point about moving towards the next step, the transition from year 6 to year 7 can also be a huge step for students as they step into the next stage of their academic journey.
Yeah.
So what are the common challenges that students may face, and how does Invictus support them throughout this process?
I remember when I went from one school to another, and it was a very different experience, and I had quite a bit of anxiety. So what we've sort of identified is that children who feel anxious are not happy children, and children who are anxious are not going to sort of be successful. So what we have to do is make sure that that step from year 6 to year 7 doesn't have too much anxiety. Now, while the primary years are in 𝗚𝘂𝗀𝘀𝘀 and the secondary school is here in Taiwan, we view ourselves as a through school. Okay? So in term 3, we offer opportunities where those year 6 students come over for at least one day, possibly 2, to the secondary school. They have a good look around, they experience some sort of secondary type lessons and activities, and that, that's the first step towards bridging that anxiety by removing some of their worries or doubts, by letting them sort of have a first-hand experience, if you like. In parallel to that, we offer some talks, which will probably be on Zoom this year, to those parents to help inform them what's coming up. Probably the biggest change when you go from primary to secondary in most international systems is in primary, children spend a lot of time with 1 or 2 teachers, and then they get to secondary school and they've got more teachers and more sort of lessons, and they've got to have some time management skills and personal organisation skills. So the teachers in the secondary phase recognise that that is where are the areas children need help in those early days. All right? And we offer kind of structures and support to help bridge that. And then we have a tutorial system where each day, at the beginning of the day, and any time a problem crops up, I should add, but children begin with a home tutor, which is a little like that class teacher in the primary phase. So there's a little sort of similarity, if you like, to help sort of bridge that gap and make it, I hope, a sort of seamless transition. So children don't spend the summer holiday worrying about what's coming when they go up to secondary school, because they've already been up, they've already had a look, they've already had a go at some stuff. And if they're asking their parents questions, parents have got the answers as well, because they've had a good informative talk and possibly some Q&A and maybe a visit to the school as well to help join the two together.
Karen, what was it like for your son and your family during his transition into the Cambridge lower secondary curriculum at Invictus?
It has been smoother than I expect. Academically, I would say, thanks to the British curriculum, it is a very clear structure and organized curriculum that it's very easy to follow. The students know exactly what they are going to learn and what they're going to expose to in each year. So there's no anxiety, there's no surprise for them. It's all there for them. And at school, I want to say a big thank you to the teachers. They have been very, very supportive. Each class, there are 2 homeroom teachers, so that the children knows exactly where they can go to and who they can go to for help. And to me, I have a feeling that the teachers have been very, very supportive, very encouraging, and very positive to the students. And especially during this transition period, that they need help, so that they feel that this is the environment that they will always be being taken care of. So all these make transition a lot easier.
I should add actually, Gloria, when our children transition up from K2 to year 1, we sort of have a similar type of process. Kindergarten is actually literally underneath the primary school, so it's not it's not a long distance, but when you're a little K2 age, going up to big primary school is a big deal, and there could be anxiety there again. So we've got a lot of similar processes in a more age appropriate way to help bridge that transition as well.
Right. As for students who may be coming from other schools, how does Invictus help them adjust to their new social and multicultural environment here?
We open up some of those, we open up all of those transition activities wherever possible to students who are coming from other schools. It's not just transition from Invictus year 6 to year 7, it's any children sort of coming into our school. And then at the beginning of the year for year 7, or indeed the beginning of the year for children who might join at other times, we have quite a few who join at year 8 as well, in actual fact. A lot of the activities in the first week, a lot of the sessions with the homeroom tutors that Karen just mentioned, a lot of those activities are very much sort of break the ice activities, get to know your classmates, get to know your school activities, because if you get those things right at the beginning, and that they are things that you continually work on, but if you get them right at the beginning, they're like a really good foundation for when the more sort of curricular stuff might come along later. So the focus at the beginning is not all about, oh wow, this is big school, hard secondary curriculum. It's not about that at all. It's about sort of learning where everything is in the school, how it works, what the sort of structures are, what the culture is, how we talk to each other, how we talk to teachers, how we talk to parents, what uniforms we wear, things like that. And some of those things might seem quite small and obvious to some students, but if a student, as you say, has come from a different school in Hong Kong or a different school somewhere else in the world that's very, very different, it takes a little time and they need a little help and nurturing to help sort of get there. And, when you sort of look at year 7s, come sort of Christmas, the end of term 1, it's a very long term. They really are growing into themselves. They're being sort of, young teenagers, if you like, which some parents, that's quite a stressful time. But when they arrive, they are very much younger students just out of primary school. So it really is quite a big time, which really needs a lot of careful thought and a lot of sort of careful space and a lot of sort of guidance, if you like, because they're at that sort of tricky age where they need things, but they're also growing up and they want to do it themselves as well. And you want to develop that. That's the whole point of a school, helping to develop that. So it's very much sort of guiding. When you sort of go bowling, and sometimes when you have little children, you have those little plastic runners that come up at the side. I sometimes think that's an important part of the beginning of year 7.
Karen, it's been nearly a year since Ethan first joined Invictus. How is he finding life at the school?
Oh, he feels like home, I would say. He feels that the school is a place that he can freely express his feelings. A lot of people care for him. He's being respected. And a lot of fun things happening all the time. I can tell you that every day when I pick him up from school at dismissal, I always see a big charming smile on his face. And he's always running out to me, anxiously telling me what happened in school that day. All the fun stories, all the, exciting stuff, experiences. And I believe this is exactly what a parent wants to see. Your children loves to go to school.
Well, it's great to hear about this. So as a parent, what support has Invictus provided to you, and what do you appreciate most about the school?
We as parents are fully informed by the school of all the things happening here. We got weekly newsletters every Friday, so we know what the plans are, what's going to happen in school, what the schedule will be ahead of the calendars. And at the same time, if you need help, I know I can always pick up the phone and call. In the beginning of the term, I actually have the experience talking to the Chinese teacher about the Chinese curriculum. And I also had the experience of talking to the music teacher about Ethan's music program. I raised my inquiries I express my concern, and they clear the clouds for me. So we here, we know, what's going to happen, and if we have questions, there are always, support from the schools to help us.
Right, it's so great to hear that your family is enjoying the school. Chris, for prospective students and parents, how can they find out more about Invictus?
Well, at any time or day of night, they could of course click on our website and have a good look there and contact us. I think a very good thing to do is actually to come and visit our school, either book a tour online or pick up the phone and make an appointment, because I think seeing the school is always a very good way of finding out about it. We also have parent talks. I say parents, I mean talks for parents. I do some of the time. Sometimes my colleague, the vice principal, does them in Cantonese. And those are like information talks to help parents find out a little bit more. When COVID sort of calms down a little bit, there'll be more opportunity for sort of open day type activities. At the moment, we're also balancing that with sort of virtual tours and things like that. And I hope sort of, social media was mentioned by Karen right at the very beginning, wasn't it? So, I know parents can be pretty clued up and find a little bit about us through that. Through our official channels where we put out the information, but also those sort of parent groups where parents are talking, and I hope parents are talking positively, so I should be very glad if parents almost tell other parents about us. That's sometimes the best way, actually. Instead of listening to me, listen to happy parents, I hope.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Chris and Karen, for sharing your insights on managing the transition to Invictus School Hong Kong. And thank you, audience, for listening. We hope to see you in the next session. Bye!